Hello, welcome to Navigating to Success. I'm your host, Jeff Carlton, Certified Focal Point Business and Executive Coach, and I'm very pleased to have with me Emily Clem.
Thank you, Jeff. Glad to be here today.
So, Emily is the CFO at the Theodore Roosevelt Medora Foundation, a nonprofit in North Dakota. Emily, tell us about the foundation. What do you do?
Sure. I have been here, crazy to think, almost 7 years now, about 6.5 years. And I had the realization the other day. I previously was in public accounting. I've now been here a bit longer than my former job. So, kind of a dream come true. As a child, I was blessed to have my parents take me out here from Eastern North Dakota originally. We'd come out for family vacations. So, very familiar with Medora, the Theodore Roosevelt Medora Foundation. An opportunity just kind of landed in my plate to work here now almost 7 years ago. So I first joined the foundation as controller, and in 2022 bumped up to CFO.
And what to tell people what the foundation does? What is the purpose?
Sure. So our vision at the foundation is to connect people to historic Medora for positive, life-changing experiences. Rather broad, but Medora is a special place to so many people, whether it's like me, the nostalgic memories growing up, vacationing here. We find a lot of people come here, the beauty of the Badlands all around us, just for healing when they're going through a difficult time and, taking us back to the history of the area and Theodore Roosevelt and how he found healing here. And, this area was a big part of his leadership journey to ultimately become president. So we really just carry on those traditions. Our kind of niche point that we focus on is the intersection of history, education, and entertainment. So we do a lot, and people don't even necessarily realize when they're in Medora just how much the foundation operates. They might be familiar with the Medora musical. Most people have heard of or seen. But we also operate a golf course, several food service locations, retail, lodging. So work in that hospitality realm, but then being a nonprofit, we have our fundraising arm as well. So every day is exciting for sure.
Give me an idea of the scope, the size, how many people, full-time staff.
Sure. So we have just under 90 full-time employees now, and then that balloons up seasonally. We hire roughly 340 to 350 seasonal folks to help us out through the summer. Yep. And we also talk about our growth. When I started just under 7 years ago, we were at about 45 full-time employees. So we are definitely growing.
Yeah, well, that's you've doubled there. So you really got my interest up now. How do you expand 340 to 350 people in what I assume are the summer months and then shrink back down gracefully? How does that work?
Yeah, so that kind of speaks to the growth of our full-time labor force. To be able to be prepared for that, we were finding it was just tough to get people onboarded quickly and managers in place to lead the activities in the summer. So by expanding our full-time workforce, those folks could manage in the busy summer months and then just fulfill some of the day-to-day tasks in the slower months. A critical part of that is housing. Housing in general is an issue even for our full-time folks. And, Medora is landlocked. We're not getting more land out here, and it being a tourist destination, things are expensive in terms of purchasing land and people wanting to buy a house. So it's really housing. When I started back in 2018, we were working on the Elkhorn quarters. It is guest lodging, but there's also employee housing component of that. So that was a critical piece to expand our seasonal workforce housing, but it still continues to be a challenge as we continue to grow Medora, the Presidential Library opening in 2026 here now just around the corner. Housing remains the challenge for sure.
And that's kind of systemic across the clientele that I work in the Western Intermountain West. Is housing in the post-COVID environment became a crisis. It's led to we can't hire labor in these regions at all because there's just nowhere for them to move to. So what kind of specialties, what kind of skills do people need to bring to that seasonal labor? Is it service industry, college students, high school students? What are we looking at?
Yep. So really, we across the board, you hit them all on the head, but we are very reliant upon international employees. We get a lot of J1 employees. So those are the student workers who are here for college and they spend their time working here. And then as part of that visa, they spend some time traveling, getting to see the States. So a lot of J1 employees and then our H2B visa workers as well. We get a lot of those to help in food service primarily. Definitely, we've talked to the effects of COVID yet when everything was shut down and international travel definitely felt the effect there. But we also get a lot of college students as well, which we enjoy. The tough part there is the end date when school starts roughly mid-August, but we do get students from all over the US, so some have a later start date. In fact, this summer, this upcoming 2025 season, we are extending the musical season a weekend later than what we typically have. And so that kind of becomes the struggle then when you have so many college students of, how do we fill in when they leave? And that's where we're blessed being a nonprofit to have so many volunteers. They're a critical part of what we do. And we see roughly between the 700 and 800 range number of bodies coming in to help volunteer every year in Medora.
Oh, that's tremendous. What do you consider to be your high season? What are your target dates for that huge workforce increase?
Sure. So typically Memorial Day to Labor Day is kind of the standard. But again, we're really moving to be seen as open year round, especially now when the Presidential Library will open. So we have a lot of different entertainment offerings in the, I'll say off season, although we're trying to get away to that terminology. We'll say winter season. But again, we are looking to extend, as I mentioned, now we're beyond Labor Day weekend. Used to be the weekend after Labor Day weekend was when we were closing, but now we're even extending the musical beyond that. And part of it's hard when we hit September and the weather, especially last year, was so beautiful. It's like, oh man, we could capture a lot of tour buses, at that time of year coming through. So weather obviously is a big factor, but hoping that it holds and that we'll have just made a good decision, hopefully, for 2025 and beyond. So
Yeah, well, I mean, that just kind of hit me because 15 minutes before we got on, I was on a four-wheeler pushing 16 inches of snow around. So, and you just never know in this climate what September looks like. Even Labor Day.
Yeah.
I've seen a foot of snow on the ground on Labor Day. So that is indeed a challenge. And then it's 50 degrees a week later and everything's a mud hole. So
Exactly. Yeah.
so you talked about your personal journey of working in private and public accounting space versus working for the foundation now. What do you think are the principal differences for you now?
That is a great question. I think especially working here, as I said, all that we do, I feel like day to day, there's definitely no boring day. I feel like I get to work in so many different industries under one roof, so it makes the work exciting, challenging. One thing I thought I would really miss when making that transition from public accounting to private was the interaction with clients. But again, because I'm kind of in such a diverse organization, I feel I still get that variety in terms of the work I'm doing day to day. And really now, instead of having external clients coming into me, it's all of our different department managers I kind of see as my clients, and that I'm working to get them reporting and help them understand their financials. So I still get that variety, get a lot of interaction. The kind of joke is internally I'm not a maybe stereotypical accountant and that I'm not introverted. I love people. I love interacting. So I was a little nervous about missing that piece, but I definitely still get that here. So
Yeah, I've worked with several accountants as clients and on the podcast, and a lot of them say that that's what they wish they could get rid of. They've got a bunch of clients that they want to fire. So it's interesting that the picture you just painted, though, is an important concept that I think a lot of organizations often overlook, is that your clients aren't just the people out in the public. You have internal clients as well. And a lot of times when an organization is struggling, it's because they're not taking good care of their internal clients. It's great that you guys have focus there. To kind of take us to the home stretch here, you've hinted at a couple really big things, but what is the strategic plan? What does it look like in 2 to 3 years?
Well, we have a lot of exciting things on the horizon, and I think we talk about that doubling in 6 years of our FTEs. I'm not going to venture out to say we're going to quite double, but I could see a 20 to 30% increase in our full-time labor force just because we looking to build a new new lodging property, a new hotel in Medora west of the river. If all goes as planned, we would hopefully break ground on that in 2025. And again, all this in preparation for the library opening. And we are also looking to build a rodeo arena that we refer to as our Western Heritage Initiative. So again, that intersection of education, history, entertainment, there'd be some learning components to that as well to help people who are coming in and who don't know the Western way of life, to help experience what that means from both a character development standpoint and even just the nitty gritty and get dirty rodeo with the livestock, etc. And then lastly, one of our big projects is a wedding event barn venue, not just exclusively for weddings, could be company retreats. That's going to be located out by the golf course. And so with that cabin, there would be some cabins as well, and kind of a larger multi-unit cabin, say, that more like a lodging property out there as well. So perfect destination venue for weddings where you'd have, a bridal suite out there and wedding party, etc. could stay out. Or, the corporate retreats that want to go golfing right there on the golf course, have meeting space. We already have our established catering and food service team to service that. So a lot of exciting projects on the
Oh, it's
horizon that's
exciting.
really going to change
Yeah,
what
that
we
is.
do. Yep.
Last question. We'll close it out with this. Well, maybe two. What was your biggest lesson learned in your journey? Because you've got a pretty varied resume and you've landed here. But what was your biggest lesson learned on your professional journey?
Definitely my biggest learning lesson was realizing that I, more often than not, am my biggest critic and my biggest stumbling block. I was the one, it was a huge jump for me to make the jump. Conservative accountants, we like to be very methodical in our decisions. So I'd reached a place of comfort, security in my position in public accounting before making this leap. But yet there was just something nagging at me when this opportunity presented itself to come to TRMF, because I wasn't necessarily searching at the time. And it was the biggest leap of faith. I mean, I didn't all this things secure, like I wouldn't have daycare lined up for my kids, all the things, but I worked past that. I'm like, I just feel I need to do this. So got past that. But then again, when the opportunity came to make the next step in my career from being controller to CFO, I just mentally put up every roadblock I had of why I couldn't do it, or, didn't check all the boxes, or didn't have enough experience, or certain components of the job that intimidated me. And now looking back, the things that scared me, I'm like, I think in part, even looking at gender differences, I find it intriguing that women are more likely to not apply for a job they don't think they're qualified for, versus men can get over that of, I might not check all the boxes and I can do that. And I feel living proof of that. And I'm learning still as I continue. And I hope if there's anything I can share with others is just to not be so concerned with the checking the box mentality, or when you don't think you have the skills or you can't do something that you can, and you just need to believe in yourself. And I was blessed to be surrounded by great people who believed in me even when I was the one kind of doubting myself. So
That's a fantastic lesson. We are sometimes our worst critics and we put up barriers that really don't exist. We worry so much about the how, we forget about how much we want the what and the why we want it, and how gets in the way. Figure out what you want and why you want it, and how will come. Just go
yes.
for it. That's fantastic. And that's a great way to close it out. Well, I'm not going to ask you if you're hiring because we covered that. You are, but you might want to bring your own RV so you got a place to stay.
Yeah.
Uh, but Emily, thank you. Any parting words before we close this episode up?
No, I just hope all your viewers watching will join us in Medora this summer for our 60th anniversary Medora musical. And I mentioned all the exciting things on the horizon as well. June 4th, 2025, Medora musical. Hope to see you there.
Throw your, what's the website? How do they find you?
Medora.com. And on there, you'll find not only book your trip, what to do, but that we have job opportunities posted on there as well. And then we have a foundation link on there that will give a little bit more history on the foundation itself and kind of that nonprofit arm as well, in ways that people can financially support.
Awesome. Thank you again, Emily, for joining me. And for everybody, watch this episode. We'll see you next time on Navigating Success. Emily, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.